Welcome to the public meeting of the Randwick Local Planning Panel of the 25th of the 9th, 2025, held at Randwick Council Chambers electronically. Can I begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal people who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick Local Planning Panel, I acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past and present and to the Aboriginal people in attendance today. I'm the chair of the panel. My name is Stephen Lehman, and with me are expert members Michael Levy to my right and Elizabeth Kincaid, I beg your pardon, to the left, and community member Michael Berg to my far left. Prior to the commencement of this meeting, all panel members are required to sign a declaration of interest in relation to each matter on the agenda. I can confirm that all declarations of interest have been received and that no conflicts have been identified. The signed declarations of interest will be available to view through the Council's website by tomorrow afternoon. At this point, do any of the panel members have anything further to declare? No. Thank you. Today we have a number of speakers, people registered to address the panel, including, we do not have councillors. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the panel. If the chair considers it appropriate, an extension of 1 minute may be granted by the chair upon request. However, no further extension will be granted. The panel has been provided with all the copies of all the submissions received in response to the public exhibition of the application. Therefore, there is no need for speakers to repeat all the points in those submissions. Speakers should focus on the key matters they wish us to understand and consider, including any suggestions about how their concerns might be resolved. The applicant may wish to comment on issues raised in the Council's report, provide a response to proposed conditions, and/or address any issues raised by an objector. After the speaker has addressed the panel members may ask the speaker questions to clarify on any matters, so stay online until we determine whether there are any. Only registered speakers will be allowed to speak and respond to questions from the panel. Any person using defamatory or offensive language may be asked to leave the meeting, or the meeting may be adjourned. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and we ask the speakers to use the microphone on their device when addressing the panel to ensure that their comments are recorded. The audio recording will be available through Council's website by tomorrow afternoon. After all registered speakers have been heard, the panel will deliberate and vote on each matter in a closed session. I'll now introduce the speakers. The first application with registered speakers that is to be considered at this public meeting is the application at 27, it's D51/25 of this agenda, DA number 520/2025, 27 Cowper Street, Randwick. I have two objectors and two applicants wishing to speak. The first objector I have is Paul Boyce. Is Paul Boyce with us? And could you please turn on your microphone, perhaps introduce yourself and what your interest is in this matter, and if you're a neighbour, where you are located in relation to the site.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, my name is Paul Boyce. I live at 27 Burton Street, Randwick, directly behind the proposed development site. I speak on behalf of myself and the Burton Lane Residents Action Group, 16 concerned locals living on Burton and Cowper Streets who are affected by this proposal. My key concern is the lack of a clear traffic and construction management plan for Burton Lane and the surrounding streets. Burton Lane is a narrow access lane used daily by pedestrians and vehicles to access the properties. A number of children living in the street and elderly residents with health issues, and my wife has a disability and requires unobstructed 24-hour access to and from our garage via Burton Lane. She cannot access our property from the front due to mobility issues. Our garage and that of our neighbour at 25 Burton Street are directly opposite the proposed driveway into the underground car park. This makes uninterrupted access essential. Where is the traffic and construction management plan that clearly explains how the construction will be safely coordinated, including vehicle movements, heavy trucks, and site access along Burton Lane and surrounding streets? Will there be any traffic control officers or access guarantees in place? How will emergency access, delivery and maintenance vehicles and garbage collection be managed safely and without disruptions? The lane is shared by multiple homes. This is not just about convenience, it's about safety, health and accessibility for local residents and visitors. We have not seen a plan that addresses these risks or how the impact will be mitigated. We ask that the residents' safety and access rights be fully protected as a condition of approval. We urge Council and the panel to require a detailed and enforceable traffic and construction management plan to address locals' safety, health and accessibility concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, panel, are there any questions of this or comments for this speaker? No. Okay. As I understand it, we have a condition of consent requiring the submission of a traffic and construction management plan. Is this correct, Councillor Starr?
That's correct.
And that will be before the issue of a construction certificate?
Prior to construction certificate, and it's also to the satisfaction of our integrated transport unit, so being reviewed by technical specialists prior to release.
So would there be any opportunity for this subject to review that?
It will be an internal process, but the removal of any congestion or ongoing obstructions to the laneway will be a key consideration for council. It will be reported to the Randwick Local Traffic Committee as well, so that there are representatives from the police and other agencies that will also want to see similar outcomes as the residents.
And it's important that there's a complaints mechanism in that plan.
That's correct. Yeah, that will be reported
part of it. Okay.
Yeah, to our rangers and enforcement.
So
yeah,
that's the way it's supposed to be dealt with, Mr. Boyce.
So can I ask, does that apply to after construction for like garbage collection and so on?
I don't think so. To construction management.
just for construction management impacts here. Garbage will also be sort of managed separately.
Okay, let's not have a debate about it here now. I'll just reply to this.
Yeah.
Can I
Thank
just
you,
say,
sir.
can I ask?
Did you want to say something more?
Yeah. Will it be a condition of the approval? The traffic and construction management plan, will it be a condition of the approval?
Yes, it will. That's what we're saying. It will, and it'll be reviewed by suitable experts in.
Yeah, our technical specialists as well as.
And it will have an appeal mechanism if there's any problems.
Yeah, it can be reported.
So how does this person access a copy of that plan, in order to make if there's a problem, a complaint, how can he know how to make it?
Yeah, that can be lodged in an informal access request. You can obtain a copy of it.
So I think you would need to make an access request for a view of that plan
Via our records team, yeah.
via council's records team.
Yeah.
So that's an email, is it, to council records team?
I don't know. Is that
Yeah, it is an online services sort of request via a website.
Are you able to send me a
website.
link? Are you able to send me a link to boyce27@bigpond.com?
Yeah,
We'll see if we can do that. I think we can. I think Angela is taking a note of your email address, and we will do that.
That'd be excellent. Thank you. So we
Thank
can
you.
comment on that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, next objector I have on my list is Baz Compton. As you there.
G'day.
Please introduce yourself, tell us what your interest is, where you're located in relation to the site, etc.
Thank you, Chair and panel members. My name is Baz Compton. I'm a resident of 29 Cowper Street, directly adjacent to the proposed DA in a heritage listed home. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and my mother, who is the principal resident and occupant. My family have lived in this home for 4 generations. We support redevelopment of this site, but the building as proposed is too long and will overwhelm our heritage home at 29 Cowper Street. Now, the first issue is the length. Now, the control regarding the length is, council control is 10 to 14 metres. The building is 18.75 metres, which is about 34% over these controls. Now, the last amendment cut just 1.2 metres or 6% off the length of the building. The amended shadow diagrams showed no real improvement, and the impact on our heritage curtilage and garden setting remain unchanged. Council's report says the brief is acceptable on merit because of setbacks and articulation, and the report notes compliance with LEP 5.10. But that's framed in terms of general planning controls, not a heritage test. LEP clause 5.10.4 requires assessment of curtilage, settings and views. There is no explicit analysis of those impacts in the context of the 34% exceedance of its control. And the reports claim that the rear wall now aligns with 25 Cowper Street is redundant because with the balconies enclosed, the building reads longer and heavier than the wall lines suggest. Now, in regard to these balconies, council required the rear balconies to be enclosed on the sides for privacy concerns. Now, while this solved some overlooking issues, it produced the opposite of a good heritage outcome. The original Heritage Officer's feedback identified the risk of long blank walls and called for more articulation. Enclosing the balconies has increased bulk and removed these breaks. Yet there is no clear heritage commentary in the report addressing this reversal. The Bura Charter, which underpins heritage practice in the state, says new work must respect the setting and not obscure appreciation of a heritage place. The enclosed balconies now create exactly the kind of monolithic wall that council's own heritage officer warned against. Now, I'm sure everyone has seen the kind of plans and whatnot, but for a very quick visual reference, these enclosed balconies here, which I'm referring to.
Yep.
Now, the third point making, so with the length of the balconies, and the third point is our heritage garden. The setting of a heritage house is more than its front facade. Our rear garden with its ground floor glass wall is how the house is lived in and appreciated. Sunlight, views and space. Randwick DCP Park B2 requires new development to respect the gardens and curtilage of heritage items and not visually dominate them. 4 generations.
Yeah, that's 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
That's 3 minutes. Can you wind up, please? That's 3 minutes.
My apologies. Okay, well, very, very briefly, the last concern is regarding the privacy. There's been lots of controls put in regard to privacy in regard to 25 Cowper Street, which is great, but there have been no privacy controls in relation to the other side of the building, which is us at 29 Cowper Street. If the chair would extend a minute, I would like to suggest some alternatives. Thank you.
Well, yes, if you've got an alternative you can put to us, in a minute. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So we support housing on this site, but at almost 19 minutes with enclosed balconies, this building now presents as a monolith that dominates our heritage home.
Yeah, you said that. We're talking about privacy, aren't we?
Reduction. Pardon me?
You've said that, but presents a monolithic presentation. Well, I thought we were talking about privacy. Did you say you had a solution to the privacy or a suggestion in relation to the privacy? Is that what you said?
Yes, if I could just get
that and nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. We respectfully ask the panel to condition a meaningful reduction in building depth. And if the panel could not achieve this outcome, then at very least the balcony should remain open as originally proposed to restore the articulation and reduce the wall effect that will hypothetically dominate our heritage garden.
Okay, thank you. Now, just hold for a moment, please. Any questions or comments from the panel? That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Compton.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we have now two speakers for the applicant. The first is Craig Shulman. Is Craig Shulman there?
Yeah, over here.
Now, just introduce yourself to the panel, please, and you may care to address some of the points that have been raised by the neighbours.
Yeah, sure. So it's Craig Shulman. I'm from Myriad Town Planning. We're the town planners that have been working on this project.
Right.
And I guess just first up, we just wanted to, firstly, good afternoon, panel
Fine.
members, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
We just wanted to say on behalf of the applicant team that we've got no issues with the officer's recommendation and conditions, and just wanted to thank council for their collaborative approach throughout this process. With the refinements and changes that we've made along the way, we think we've reached a very great outcome, and just pleased to see the positive recommendation before the panel today.
Okay, so you're comfortable with this traffic and
I was just going to say,
management plan, of course, I expect.
yeah, so that there is a condition of consent
Yep.
that's been placed on that. We have no issues with that.
And do you care to respond to the second speaker?
There has been, I guess, consideration of that heritage dwelling next door, and we've had a heritage report. We've also set the building back in on that side for the most part. There is articulation along there in the form of windows, different materials. The enclosing of those balconies was as a result of some privacy concerns. The intention there was to provide varying materials that would go around those balconies to break up that bulk, and they do step in slightly from the side wall, so it's not a long expansive wall. And then again, there's the break of the material which wraps around those balconies. We're open to any suggestions on those. If there are any concerns, whether they made semi-transparent or some screening instead of solid, if that is required. But overall, we have worked on trying to break up that facade with varying materials, articulation, and windows.
Okay, well, I can see that it's largely, that side elevation is largely occupied by lift and stair and foyer and mostly blank walls. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, I just had a question. I have two questions actually. I just wanted to ask, what materials were you proposing to use to along the side of the boundary of the balconies? I'm just looking at the plan, but if you can spell it out, that would be helpful.
Yeah, look, if I may, we've also have registered. The other speaker was Gaurav he was the architect from our architecture.
Perhaps we could ask him to speak and address the question to him. Is that appropriate?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be preferred.
Right.
But
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, no worries.
So we have Gaurav Arajadhyaks. If I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
I'd like to
Thanks, Craig.
introduce yourself to the panel and tell us what your response is.
My name is Gaurav Rajadhyaksha. I'm the architect at R Architecture. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to attend and speak at this session. I can answer the question in regards to the materiality. We have very carefully selected the palette of finishes for this project, and that is a composition of brick and metal. However, the metal has been utilized in either a patinaed copper look or black metal shingles, both of which would be complementing the finishes that are prevalent within the streetscape, within the heritage houses along that street. So along the side boundaries or side elevations, the material palette is a composition of metal and brick. And we have also proposed the brickwork in a cobbling pattern to create a visual texture so that when looking from the heritage item and the garden, it is not a blank wall. Perhaps it is not very clear in the drawings or in the 3D images, but the intent is to create a visually attractive looking building so that it does not feel like it's dominating and a less appealing kind of aspect to look at. With regards to the enclosed balconies, we believe it is a resolved design outcome because there are external storages, and having a metal wall is perhaps a more effective way to block any visual aspects and privacy. But we are, as Craig said, we are happy to take any suggestions and alter that design if it is more palatable to be done in a different way.
Yeah, thank you for that. I also have another question. Are you proposing to either install or make it ready to install EV chargers in the basement of the building?
We do not have the proposal at this stage, but we can happily. I mean, it is fairly practical to have EV chargers in the basement for building in the current day and age. So it would be acceptable to have a condition in the permit to provide EV chargers.
Okay, then there are no further questions from the panel. So thank you, speakers. We will deliberate on the basis of what we've heard, and we'll now move on to the next item D52/25 of this agenda.
Thank you, panel.
Thanks very much. It's at the DA 184/2022/A 42 Wolseley Road, South Coogee. So we have 2 objector speakers and 2 speakers for the applicant. And we have firstly Isabella Esposito.
Yes.
Hello there. Hello, Lisa. Hello.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you very much for your time, and panel members. I want to put forward to the panel today that it's what you have before you is an ill-considered and poor design.
Can you say where you are from and where do you live, and what's your relationship and interest in this site?
I am a town planner with over 33 years of experience. I run a town planning consultancy. Who are you representing? And I'm representing the landowners of number 11 Garnett Street, South Coogee.
Thank you.
We are a key stakeholder because we are directly situated behind the subject land.
Okay.
I put to you today, panel, that the design response you have before you is ill-considered, a poor urban design response, and should be refused. The number of redesign conditions that council officers have put forward suggests that the current proposal can't be supported without further design change. I'm going to talk about 2 quick issues, one which is a legal issue, but the original development consent granted alterations and additions to a dwelling house. We question whether or not the remnants of the house will be able to be retained on site during construction, and therefore this would then become a new dwelling house rather than alterations and additions. Council officers.
I don't think that's the test, I'm sorry. But anyway, go ahead. Council
officers have added a condition 2A, which is raising this condition of structural adequacy of what's there on site. And that condition is suggesting that there needs to be engineering advice to determine whether or not the structural adequacy of what's on the land will be able to be retained. So council officers have gone to that issue themselves. The second thing, there's a number of things on the plans that just haven't been resolved. We have a lift, but there's no lift overrun on the plans. So when you look at the roof plan, there's no plant, there's no lift overrun. So there's been no assessment of any further views that are going to be taken by any plant that gets put onto the roof. Yet we have a 4-storey dwelling proposal in front of us with a lift that's been included, but there's no lift overrun. But look, I've looked at the council officer's recommendation. I don't agree with it, but if we are going to, if the panel was of the mind to support this application today, I will take you to the key matters which are of concern to my client. And that is in relation to the geotechnical assessment that's been undertaken and the fact that it remains inadequate. And the geotechnical assessment, there's been two that have been undertaken, and they are clearly suggesting further investigation is required and that further retention walls and other structures are going to be required on the land. And therefore, I would say that these structures require development consent. And if this was to be approved, the certifier will have to determine whether or not these structures that come out of this second geotechnical investigation, do they require a further mod? I would say to the panel that these decisions should be kept with the panel and kept with council. It's not really the role of a certifier to determine whether
that's 3 minutes now. So
whether further structures on the land require development consent. Thank you for your time.
I think we understand your concerns. Are there any questions of this speaker or comments? No.
I was just looking at the lift question.
Yes, a question about the lift.
Well, just understanding, that may be a question for the applicant to explain.
Okay, normally lifts have an overrun. Some, not all have an overrun. Most of them do. So, okay, I think that's all. Lisa Bella, if I can call
yes,
you by your first name.
Thank you very much for your time, panel.
Thank you. We'll ask the applicant about the lift.
Thank you.
So the other speaker for objectors is Renata Bazzina. Renata is there. Renata, who do you represent?
I represent myself. I'm the owner of 40 Wolseley Road.
Very good.
I'm adjacent to 42. Look, my concerns are straightforward. There have been revisions and I've accepted those on good faith. My concerns are really about the cross-sectional drawing you might have there in regards to the boundary line around the pool, which has been relocated. If you take a look there is, it's unclear on the retaining wall about the encroachment of their pool, which plans to be a boundary pool fencing wall, as to on whose property that fencing will be. And because then it, according to Randwick Council's pools controls, there's some uncertainty as to who's going to own and maintain that pool barrier. I have an existing fence, which with the previous...
That's all that happens, yeah.
Sorry, I have an existing fence that was put up only a few years ago prior to these current owners who have bought it. With, consent of the previous owners, I've built my fence on my boundary. So there's no shared boundary wall, effectively. So when 42 Wolseley Road commenced development and relocation of and this new swimming pool, I just wanted to be clear where their boundary wall is going to be and how they can use that as a pool fencing wall. And it's unclear.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions for this speaker or any comments? Seems to be some lack of clarity about the pool, and the panel will deliberate on whether, what sort of level of additional information I think is required or whether it ought to be made not part of this application. So we now have the applicants. They may care to address that question see if they can ease our concerns about the pool and the lift overrun. First of all, there's Andrew Chapman. First speaker, can you introduce yourself? Tell us your interest in the matter, please.
Hi, my name's Andrew Chapman. I'm the architect for the modifications involved with this DA. I'm basically registered here to answer any questions that come up. Generally happy with the report, its recommendations and conditions. I'll defer to our town planner later to speak specifically to a couple of conditions, but I'm here just to answer questions.
So the town planner will speak to the conditions. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Yep. Are there any questions for Mr. Chapman?
Lift.
Well, yeah, you're probably better placed to comment on the lift overrun question.
Yeah, this is a small.
What's the detail of the lift design?
Yeah, we propose a small hydraulic domestic scale lift. It doesn't require an overrun. It can fit to a clearance of approximately 2.4 metres from finished floor level. So there'll be nothing visible on the roof.
That's like a hydraulic ram thing, is it?
Yeah. All the plant is in the basement. There's no overrun.
Yep. All right, thank you. I suppose there's no, I don't know whether you need to comment or want to comment on this question of the pool and the boundary condition.
There's just a requirement by us to make that existing boundary fence pool safe. That's noted on the drawings. That drawing was prepared in response to some privacy concerns. So we were indicating that the height of the fence mitigated any privacy between the pool and the neighbours.
Just to clarify, can you tell what is that a timber fence? I did go to that part of the site and don't recollect the detail of that fence that we're talking about. You know what? Is it a timber fence?
It's a timber paling fence.
Timber paling fence, 1.8.
It needs to be for pool safety reasons. That that's up to the owners of 42 to make sure that pool is a compliant height. Pool fence is a compliant height measured from the inside of the site.
All right. Well, let's hear from Lewis 80, speaking on your behalf as a town planner. Brady, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Chair, panel. Yes, Lewis 80, A Square Planning, representing town planner, representing the applicant. Look, we're generally happy with the report and the recommendations and the conditions. We thank council for their consideration and approval, and we are accepting the conditions. We do note there are a number of conditions. I think there's a condition that deals with every single comment made by the two speakers. I don't need to go through them in detail unless the panel wants me to. But basically, the geotechnical report has been very well covered, and the additional investigation required has been very well covered, including the condition 2A as to the structural adequacy of the walls. So obviously, that's a standard requirement, and we obviously accept that. So it's just one condition, and we're also happy with the additional, or we can accept the additional setback of 700 millimetres that's being required on the upper level. We accept that condition. We accept the height condition. There's just one very small point in condition 2G, which talks about privacy screening.
2G, was it?
2G.
2G.
Yeah, 2G, and it's privacy screening to the north-facing living room window. And that's the window that will potentially overlook number 40. We've got no problem with the privacy screening at all. We want to put privacy screening on. However, just the wording of the condition, we think the panel might consider removing the part in brackets, which refers to 30 millimetre spacing between louvers. Now, if you then read the full condition without the part in brackets, if I can just read it out in full, it might be easier actually.
Yes.
Prior to the occupation of the development, the north-facing window of the first floor living room must be fitted with permanently fixed vertical louvers approved by the certifier. The louvers must be orientated and spaced to restrict direct overlooking of the northern neighbour's pool deck and pool deck area at number 40, and allow partial daylight and views to the east in accordance with the approved design. And that's a really good performance related condition, which can allow louvers that can be angled to achieve that second bullet point, partial daylight and views. With 30mm spacing, you're going to block daylight and you're going to block views. So we just asked the panel to allow a performance-related condition and the principal certifier to be able to sign off on a design that achieves those requirements.
Okay.
That's all.
I'll discuss that with the council officers. Don't know whether that's a standard condition or a standard specification. But thank you. We'll give that some consideration.
Thank you.
Now, are there any further questions or comments? I think that is all. But now, thank you very much for your contribution, and we'll move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Item D 5325 on this agenda is the development application 588/2025, refers to 21 Burn Crescent, Maroubra. 4 speakers in objection and 2 applicant speakers.
Only one Burn.
The first on my list is, what is that background? What is that noise in the background?
I'll do it someone joins in.
Okay.
Voice.
Yeah.
Can you turn your microphones off, please, until called upon to speak? So the first objector on my list, Tony Moody.
Chair and panel members, Tony Moody.
You're a town planner, correct?
Yes, acting on behalf of 23 Burn Crescent. Firstly, I wish to thank you and panel members for attending my client's property. Firstly, there's a fundamental breach of 42.5% of the rear setback. As a consequence, there is a range of adverse impacts generated. Can I just firstly say the analysis of the existing rear setbacks is a flawed one. Those existing houses were built well before current planning controls, and the DCP 8-metre rear setback would apply to likely future residential developments. You have before you, panel members, one speaks of a balance of impacts. This is a proposed development which has a range of adverse impacts on my client's property, which I trust you saw today. In contrast, the proposed development will enjoy expansive increased views to the northeast, to the east and to the south. In contrast, my client's views of the headland and breaking waters, and some may say that's minor, but is still nonetheless important, will be obliterated. That's not view sharing with respect. The second issue is visual bulk. You saw the breaching side boundary setback overpowering my client's private open space area, and again due to the breach. You also saw the overlooking impact. And curiously, there's a condition saying that window doesn't need to have privacy measures. So in other words, the applicant is going to enjoy expansive additional views, and will create expansive overlooking. That's not a balance. That's prejudice against my client's interests for the interests of the applicant. There's also overshadowing impact. Whilst I don't consider that impact of itself is enough to warrant refusal, when one considers the adverse impacts of overshadowing, overlooking, visual bulk and view loss, this proposed development will enjoy expansive additional benefits in contrast to my client's benefit. Panel members, this is a case where a breaching development generates a range of adverse impacts. We earnestly request that the top floor be set back the required 8-metre setback under the DCP. That would mitigate, to a large extent, the adverse impacts on my clients. Furthermore, any windows associated with the rear balcony must be excluded. That will still gain the applicant expansive additional panoramic views with aspects to the northeast, and I consider is a much more balanced approach than is currently before council, before the planning panel. My apologies. Thank you for considering this submission.
Thank you. Just hold your seat for a minute. Any questions or comment?
One question. You mentioned a few times about the additional views that will arise as a result of this proposal.
Yes.
Where do you see those additional views arising compared to, say, the existing balcony at the back of the house?
Right. First of all, the balcony will be higher than the existing balcony, and the projection on the southern side will be extending much further to the east than it currently exists. Thirdly, the balcony will be significantly greater than the existing balcony. So in other words, the proposed balcony is significantly larger, extends much further to the east, and therefore improving the views to the headland and the waterways, and it has a much greater area. By any measure, the applicant will enjoy expansive increased amenity impacts to the detriment of my clients.
Thank you, Mr. Moody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, I have Timothy Dalton objecting. Timothy, is Timothy there? And can you introduce yourself? Tell us where you are in relation to this development.
Yeah, I'm currently in the US, so it's a little bit late here. So hopefully you can all hear me. But I'm one of the owners of 23 Burn Crescent. I believe you met my mother this morning at the site inspection. Yes. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother and I as joint owners. I'll try and keep it brief, as I believe Mr. Moody and Mr. Aspinall will cover most of the technical items, particularly as it relates to view loss and privacy. Our objection predominantly relates to impact privacy in the sheer bulk of the proposed development and its impact on our property. Chairperson and panel members, I want to provide some background to the history of the street, in particular for those houses on the eastern side of Burn Crescent. Our house is a generational family home. My late grandfather built our house in circa 1966. It was the first house on the eastern side of Burn Crescent. My grandfather was a fair man and believed that if everyone built in the centre of the block, they should all be able to equally enjoy the views of Maroubra Beach extending from the northern headland all the way down to the southern end of the beach, including the rifle range. 4 generations of our family have lived in this house, including my son. It is a sentimental house and is a property that we wish to keep in the family for a long time. As it relates to, our property, we are a complying development that meets the existing setback requirements that were recently introduced, notwithstanding our property was built some 60 years ago. Our property is set back 8 metres from the rear boundary, as is required by the DCP. Due to the topography and cascading nature of the land behind the properties on the eastern side of Burn Crescent, they all currently enjoy iconic views to the northern headland of Maroubra Beach, including both the existing dwelling site to the development, as well as our property at 23 Burn Crescent. Based on the original and amended plan submitted by the applicants, it is guaranteed that we will lose our northeastern views of not only the headland, but also the South Maroubra Surf Club. This is a significant view loss spanning the northern headland all the way down to the South Maroubra Surf Club. These are views that multiple generations of our family have enjoyed. Should these plans be approved in their current form, we will be the only dwelling, and I think this is important, along the eastern side of Burn Crescent that will no longer enjoy the view of the northern headland and South Maroubra Surf Club. As a result of the breach in the rear setback, there are also significant privacy impacts due to the overlooking nature of the rear deck. The location of the barbecue on the southern side of the balcony will also contribute to our privacy concerns as well as view loss. We'll also have significant concerns in relation to the adverse bulk of the proposed southern wall, which still extends too close to the rear boundary, contrary to Council's rear setback requirements. Why should we be penalised for complying with council compliance requirements at the extent of the applicants, whose original and amended plans include a significant breach of the rear setback requirements that cause our view loss of the northern headland and South Maroubra Surf Club? If you look at the amended plans, they propose open and glass balustrades on the northern end so that they can continue to enjoy the views to the northern headland, but on our side of the property, they want it bordered up with a barbecue in the corner. These plans want to have their cake and eat it too. It is as simple as that. It is clear that a more skillful design is available, but has not been considered. Now, we would all love to have a 40 square metre enclosed deck with panoramic views of the ocean. However, there must be a more skillful design available that does not impede on our views and privacy, a design that complies with the rear setback requirements. A more skillful design option could include moving the entire development forward towards the street, reducing the size of the deck, removing the roof from the deck, removing the barbecue from the southern end of the deck, reducing the size of the development, stepping the deck down so that it's lower than the first level that would eliminate the view and privacy concerns, make the property comply with the rear setback requirements so we can all enjoy the same views. All or any can be achieved that allows the applicants to achieve their objectives whilst also maintaining existing views and privacy.
Okay, thank you. That's 3 minutes. So can you just give some concluding statements, please?
Yes, if I might ask for a slight extension. I think from an ultimate concluding statement, Chairperson, the amended plan still breached the rear setback requirements to close to 50%. Someone else has also said 42%. Now, council planners have endorsed this rear setback breach. This is not a minor breach of, say, 5 or 10%, which begs the question, how far back can one go? Is it 40%? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? 80%? To allow this DA to pass would make a mockery of council's DCP and begs the question as to why we would have such rules in place where those that do comply are ultimately penalised. Chairperson and panel members, we request that you make a fair and just decision in relation to our objection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Just for clarity, the habitable area of this building is very close to compliant with the 8 metre setback. It's the balcony that's intruding into it. And this panel is open to considering design measures to minimise that intrusion while reasonably preserving the amenity of that balcony. And I think there are ways to do it. I will attempt to discuss that with the applicant and the applicant's representatives, and we'll see how we go. Okay.
Thank you.
So John Aspinall, third speaker.
Good afternoon, Chairman and panel members. I'm John Aspinall from Urbane Design Group. We were engaged by the residents of number 23, Burn Crescent, to prepare a visual impact assessment for the original DA in June. This demonstrated that view loss was occurring to some of the highest value components of the view from this property as a direct result of non-compliance with the requirements for building boundary setbacks from the rear. The original design resulted in an unacceptable amount of view loss to the northeast and specifically North Maroubra headland and shoreline. The revised design remains non-compliant with its setback from the boundary, and the view loss remains. This area of the view represents the highest value view element for the residents of number 23, since all other views are experienced over the top of mature existing shrubs and trees to the east, and no foreshore views are visible in this direction. The revised design is not assisted in permitting this important view line to be maintained, particularly when seen in combination with the proposed landscaping, which effectively negates any of the amendments in terms of visual impact. The assessment of view loss within the report refers to a quantitative figure of 10%. However, this 10% relates to the highest value component of the view qualitatively, and when assessed in line with the principles of tenacity judgment, this represents a significant view loss. Finally, and we're encountering this frequently in our work, for trapezoidal plots such as these, sharing views across angled rear boundaries, it should be incumbent upon the residents to respect this geometrical restriction when planning new developments. A breach of rear boundary setbacks has the potential to trigger a domino effect of non-compliances as successive neighbours seek to reinstate their view. In light of this, approval of the current design could set a dangerous precedent, particularly on this street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just hold your seat for a minute, please. Are there any questions or comments from the panel? Thank you. I should say that I agree with you about this rear boundary condition, and there needs to be an appropriate response to it in my personal view, and I'll ask the applicants about that. Anyway, objector Simon Stoner. Stonia. Is Simon Stonia there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear
Please
me?
introduce yourself. Tell us where you are in relation to this site. What's your interest in this application?
Yes, I'm at 19 Burn Crescent. I'm on the north side. So the previous three speakers were from 23. I'm from 19 Burn Crescent, and the applicant is obviously 21. I'd be reiterating, thank you very much. I'd be reiterating the comments from the number 23 Burn Crescent regarding the visual bulk of the proposed rear deck. I'd also point out when you were discussing it that the downstairs is also reducing the rear setback as well. My understanding of the plans is that the upstairs rear deck, which is, I think the problem comes in that it's sort of bulky and large, and with the roof that it doesn't have at the moment, has quite an effect. Our original submission was that the footprint of the proposed development remains similar to the existing footprint, and the difference for both upstairs and downstairs is quite significant. The proposed rear setback for upstairs has been reduced by, well, as has already been said, 44%. In the report, the council noted that the effect on our place is not so much the loss of view, but overlooking into our property, and the council's conclusion was that the applicant's views into our place are already obstructed by our existing balcony and deck wall. I think the problem is that the proposed further reduced setback and increased height somewhat nullifies that, and the effect is that their proposed building would then look down into our place, and our side fence is already at maximum height and couldn't be increased. So I'm not sure that there is anything that we could do, in fact, to alleviate that. Another point that we brought up was the potential noise from the side openings, and again, that was regarded as consistent with residential planning constraints, and there was not much that they would consider about that. But that side wall of theirs at the moment has no openings at all, and obviously, you know, with our bathrooms and bedrooms and everything along that side wall, we currently enjoy complete privacy on that side, and we would lose that entirely. So we had asked the applicant if they would consider making some changes to that side opening and window and potential doorway. We do thank you very much for the conditions to ensure the protection of our large pine tree. That's greatly appreciated. But overall, the effect of the bulk of the upstairs balcony is what is our greatest concern to us. Cheers.
Thank you. Are there any questions? As I understand it from our site visit today, you have an elevated deck extending to the rear of the site on the boundary. Is that correct? It has wooden louvers in part, and is partly in the fence, and it is partly covered by a roof, you know, a corrugated roof.
Yes. Yes.
So, wouldn't you? But you're concerned about privacy. Wouldn't that be protecting your privacy, that existing arrangement?
That was the suggestion, yes, in the council's response. Our concern is that the increased height of the new development would reduce that, such that they could the effect will be that they will be looking down into our place, and
that would be onto the roof of your outdoor area.
Well, the roof only extends, well, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 meters.
About a metre or two of the back boundary.
only a quarter of a way across that back. Across.
Okay. We
So
couldn't see that from where we were. Yeah. Understood.
Look, at the end of the day, our suggestion had been to the applicant that they maintain the existing footprint and the existing height, and that would, solve everybody's problems. It's
the view line, the height of the view line, isn't it, that matters, not the height of the building.
The height of the view.
If you're worried about privacy.
Noise and privacy, given that the bulk of their new rear veranda deck is going to be a much more used living area, and the noise, we already hear a fair bit of noise from each other as it is, and that would be fairly dramatically increased. Yeah.
Well, that's all. I think that's clarified a little bit, so that we better understand your concerns. It's about noise and visual privacy and acoustic privacy as well.
Correct. Correct. And in my submission, I did sort of ask if anybody would be able to make some considerations or suggestions or reports that we could adopt to alleviate that. I know that's not your job to do it. It's probably not the applicant's job either. But I'm just wondering,
we're concerned with this proposal. I mean, that's a matter for you to explore those options, but our focus is on what can be done on this site, what should be permitted to be done on this site.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've got to move on. There being no further questions for Mr. Stonier. Two speakers for the applicant, Joshua Smith, first speaker. Can you introduce yourself, please, Joshua? Tell us your interest.
Hi, my name's Joshua Smith. I'm from SPD Studio. I'm the building designer for the project at 21 Burn Crescent. Today, I'm just here to support Ben Back, who is our town planner, who will be speaking on behalf of the client and I, and addressing any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Good. All right. So we have Benjamin Black.
Hello. Good afternoon, panel. Thank you. I'll get right into it. I have 3 minutes to address everyone's concerns. So
I'll give you an extra minute or so.
Well, I'll steal some of Josh's time if that's all right. But anyway, now I'll deal with each side. Low-hanging fruit first. Number 19, from their perspective, we are more or less at a compliant setback to the rear. I think there's 200 or 300 millimetres in it, but nothing that would change an impact scenario.
At the first floor level.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the 8 metres. That's shown.
It's a lot less at the ground floor level. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's greater.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's 9.5 metres at the ground level on their side. I can share my screen.
The drawing I've got it, isn't it?
Can you see my screen?
5.82. I've got. Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So the number 19 is to the top of the page. The dashed blue line is the 8 metres.
You're referring to 19. Okay. Think about it.
Right. And that's the first one. That's just the corner there. That's a very minor element. I know it's been said in the original submission from Mr. Moody that the setbacks are not relevant of the existing buildings, but I would entirely disagree with that because there is a rhythm here that's established over time with buildings that are going much closer to the rear boundary for obvious reasons. So it would be an absolute absurd suggestion to me anyway that if someone was to replace an existing non-compliant building, that you would push the building back to be somehow consistent with an 8 metre setback and take away amenity that you already have, views and the like. It is true that the trapezoidal shapes of the lots need to be taken into consideration, but that has resulted in these buildings having a parallel side setback and an angled rear setback, such that on the northern side of the buildings, there is compliant or largely compliant setback, and on the southern side there isn't because of the angled rear boundary, and that's just the arrangement that's happened over time. Now, we all know that view loss and setbacks are an important factor. We all know that setbacks and DCP provisions are inherently flexible based on the objectives of the particular provisions. The council have done a great job of working through very carefully through view loss, through privacy concerns, bulk and scale, and has addressed all the critical items in my view. There are as much as we've been given a bunch of conclusions today. I haven't been able to read the gentleman's report on view loss. I don't have the benefit of that, but based on generalised conclusions of there being this dramatic impact, I would say the complete opposite, where the council is saying it's less than 10% of an impact. I would say it's even less than that, because if you look at the view loss assessment in the report,
percentages are the point.
Say again, sorry?
I don't think the percentage of the view lost is the point. It's the iconic element, the key element in the view that's the point.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. What I was getting to though was to say that in the panoramic scheme of things, this far view of a headland, I would say, is not something that someone would stand and really appreciate significantly over the other view. I mean, there was a comment that the view of the surf club will be lost. That won't be lost. There will be views of breaking waves that will still be available. On that particular time that the photo was taken, there were no waves of a particular size that were breaking. But I can tell you that when the swell is up, you'll be able to see breaking waves. That is, I think, very clear. And so in any event, the panoramic nature and the minute aspect of the loss, together with this rhythm of building forms along this stretch, to me would seem that it's a reasonable approach. And I would suggest that I understand that the southern property is for sale at the moment. If that's sold, the next person comes along might actually move it forward.
Property's not for sale.
Hang on, sorry, I'm getting some interference. Yeah, your 3 minutes are up, so
yeah, and you made a
give
false
us
statement. He's made a false
minute
statement.
to just conclude, please.
Apologies, I was told it was for sale. I don't think that's relevant.
For sale?
I don't care whether it's for sale or not for sale.
Right.
We're looking at the merits of this proposal.
Sure.
So, just go and proceed on that basis. Thank you.
Sure. So there is a degree of overlooking that's already available, and it is available from all balconies that are in that location where there is elevated aspect to gain the view. As a consequence, you're looking in the neighbour's backyard. That's just largely what happens along there. It is currently the case.
So you made a justification for your case. What is your response to the concerns of the neighbours? You say that you've addressed them adequately. Is that it, or are you prepared to make other concessions?
Well, what would those concessions be?
Well, we talked about they talked about privacy, about overlooking. I would like to put on the record that the panel is interested in considering a reshaping of the rear balcony. You talked earlier about the trapezoidal rear boundaries. It seems to the panel that a response to that in the shape of the boundary might be appropriate in the context. That is, narrowing the southern end of the balcony and having an increased width at the northern end.
Is that something that would be still a parallel shape to the sides and then an angle to the rear like everyone else has established along there, or you say it would be angled to be parallel to the rear?
The historic thing that you're talking about, where the south sticks out and the north is set back, is not going to work in this, as a precedent in this scenario that we find ourselves in. It seems to me that a lot of the sites there are suitable for redevelopment in the short to medium term, irrespective of whether on the market now or not. And we're looking for a sustainable precedent, if you will, for the redevelopment of sites in this configuration and with this situation in this context. So if the southern end of the balcony was to be narrowed considerably and reconfigured in a way that widened it at the northern end, you could maintain the amenity of that balcony for your applicant, and to overcome a number of the problems that have been raised in respect of number 23, which would be likely to recur upon other redevelopment in that stretch, in that group of homes. Do you understand what I'm suggesting?
I do understand that.
My question is, are you open to that idea?
Always open to ideas.
So, you could have the edge of that balcony more or less parallel to the rear boundary. It would depend how it worked with the rear setback of the property to the north of your side.
Sure, yeah.
So I appreciate, and I think the panel appreciates, that the 8 metre setback is a number that applies everywhere in the Randwick local government area. And this site is not like everywhere in the local government area. It has different constraints and impacts from development. So we're looking for a way to try and respect the objective of that and apply it in a reasonable fashion in this context in a way that will work as a precedent for future development.
Well, my view is that the precedent argument isn't really one that needs to be considered here. I think the legislation is clear on that and saying that the merits of an application need to be considered on its own. But in any event,
that's very easy to say, isn't it? But okay, let's forget that argument. What about just doing it for the neighbour to the south?
I thought we were talking about the south, sorry.
Sorry?
Oh, I thought we were talking about the south.
I
thought we were talking about the south.
Yeah. No, you were talking about precedent not being an argument.
Oh, right. Sorry. No.
Okay. And I said, well, let's forget about the precedent argument. What about doing it for the dwelling to the south?
Sure. What I was going to say was the existing building form sets, I think, if the panel was minded to look at alternatives, that sets the benchmark, in my view, with what would be acceptable. Alternatively, an application is lodged for alterations and additions, and it's maintained there. So I think that's a reasonable starting point, not necessarily to bring it back to the full extent of the DCP compliance.
All right. Well, we'll consider that, I think. I think in the panel's view, there's a way to respond to some of these concerns which doesn't, materially to reduce the development potential or amenity of your proposal.
Understood.
And that's what we'd like to explore. So we'll think about how we might do that. Okay.
Okay.
And I think consideration needs to be given to how you treat the condition at the northern end, where we've heard there's a perceived, at least, concern about privacy. And
do you mind if I just say?
Sorry.
Do you mind if I just say a word?
Yes, please.
Regarding the conditions.
Yeah.
There was conditions provided that from council in the agenda for this meeting, where we have provided operable screens to the side of the deck area. That was due to the fact that there is quite a bit of inclement weather, and when it does hit this coastline, it hits pretty hard. So the client obviously wants to still be able to use the alfresco area above when there is inclement weather. So the movable screens were put in so they can be closed, but then they can be open to obviously take the full length of the view.
That's to the north you're talking about.
To north and south.
Yep.
So the idea there is also that they're open 99.9% of the time to capture those views, but also that they can be closed for the inclement weather, but also for privacy to the neighbours. So it does also provide a secondary function there. So what in the conditions, council have said to remove those screens, but preferably we would keep those screens because it does address the concerns of the private open space overlooking. And I think it's a fair outcome that, realistically, the client who I've spoken to today said they would never close those screens unless they really felt necessary.
Keep the view.
Yeah, it's because the view is, it's not just in this direction. It is completely to the south and southeast of this proposal. So yeah, I just wanted to raise my hand there and just say that the screens have been considered and privacy has been considered for this proposal.
Okay. Well, I think the configuration and the design of the balcony needs to be reconsidered along the lines of what I've foreshadowed just now. And we will find a mechanism for doing that. But I think there's a further question from the panel.
Yeah, question I think to you, Joshua. Can you just tell us the difference in level between the existing rear balcony and the proposed balcony?
It's 1 metre. It's 1 metre.
1 metre.
Yeah.
1 metre higher. Thanks.
Correct.
All right.
I think that's everybody on the speakers list. So thank you very much. I think it's been a productive conversation. Hopefully it's going to resolve some of the issues. And thank you very much for your attendance.
Just before we conclude, I think the 1 metre increase in height is problematic from our point of view, the neighbours on the north side. I think the re-establishment of the security shutters on the north side would be beneficial to our situation.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of the talk in the street has been questioning why the entire structure of the house can't be moved further to the west, i.e. to the front of the street, allowing the whole house to maintain its existing measurements.
That's not what's proposed, and I don't think it's needed to overcome the problems. So maybe it's one option, but it's not what the applicant wants, and I don't think it's the only way to do it.
Obviously, we'd be concerned to see any increase in the width of the deck at the on the northern end. That would not be suitable to our situation at all. That would only increase the problems.
Thank you. That's the end of the public part of this meeting, I believe. We have no more speakers. So thank you for your participation. We appreciate your involvement, and we will now deliberate on the matter privately. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.